This is Barret Edelstein, and today I'll be interviewing Mr. Nick Heyward from the UK. Mr. Heyward, how are you today? Where do we find you? What's happening in your world?
Well, I'm in my turret. This is actually the desk where I'm being creative at the moment, where I read, and this is my album is all in here.
Okay.
And this is the microphone I'm using. This is the slate heart that I put my tea on. This is my mouse.
Yes.
And this is my yacht.
What's a yacht? What does that represent?
It's just my boat.
Just your boat.
This is the future.
Okay. Okay, I like that. Okay.
This is the present that I'm gonna. This is what I aspire to having one day. A fisherman's trawler. And metaphorically, it's the way out of this harbour.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's take it all the way back to the beginning. Tell us about your musical journey.
Well, actually, it started quite early, really, with my parents. My father, well, both parents, mum and dad, Ken and Anna, were both really into music. Really, really, really. But dad especially into jazz. I mean, he was very enthusiastic about jazz. And he took me to see Count Basie, Oscar Peterson and Ray Charles at Hammersmith Odeon when I was probably about 6 or 7. And so that's what I thought music was. That's what was played in the house. He had Dave Brubeck, Woody Herman. I would say, who was the other guy? There was this Tubby Hayes. That was it. He was really into Tubby Hayes. And this was really cool jazz. This wasn't just kind of commercial jazz. This was really intricately woven jazz. So that was what I had, filled the car with his 8-track. So that was my idea of what concerts were, really. And then it was my brother. He was really into pop music of the time. So it was Bowie, Diamond Dogs, Bolan. I remember hearing Ride a White Swan out of his bedroom, his purple carpeted bedroom with wall-to-wall WEM amplification, and he had this thing called a WEM copycat, which it was a bit of tape that just went round and round, and so anything you played, it just repeated on a loop, like an early loop, and it just, so he'd be in his room going and smoking stuff, and it was, it was incense in there, and it was, a little bit Bieber as well. There was pheasants feathers everywhere, and it was dark, and he had permed hair. It was all kind of, it was a little bit Phil Lynott in there, and The Boys Are Back in Town was kicking off, and that was it. It was just kind of they were the influences of the time. Hold Your Head Up by Argent, and but the first band I just embraced was I nicked On the Level by Quo, a really early Status Quo record, and I just thought they look great. I really like the denim. I like just the triple denim that they were wearing. So I tried to find some denim somewhere. So I hunted around for some denim, and I found some denim Wrangler flares and a waistcoat like Francis Rossi, and I found a denim coat with some fake sheepskin here. Yeah. And I had long blonde hair like Rick Parfitt that was a bit thicker than it looked like. Looks like Francis Rossi was quite fine, the hair, but mine was a bit thicker too. So, and I wanted to get it round here, the hair like that. So I had cascading blonde hair, long blonde hair, and denim and platforms. And I was in the room just, down, deeper and down. It was rough and it was basic. And I was just like in my brother's purple bedroom, just thinking, yeah, I didn't think I could do this. I was just kind of loving music. It was much better than school. Yeah. School was really bland and boring, and all the things that I wanted when I was older. I got round to that, like books and stuff like that. I wanted to do that when I got older, but when I was younger, it was just that. It was like Ride a White Swan. Why would you even do that? Why would you even think about riding a swan? What was that? What did it mean? I never found out. I never knew what that was. I found out later. You find out all that stuff, all the crazy lyrics, what they mean, but if they mean anything at all. But it's just that thing of, when I first heard Bohemian Rhapsody, I thought, wow, how is this stuff even made? Yeah. So I just thought, there's no way I could do this. This is like my brother. He can do. Well, he played it. He was in his bedroom playing it and stuff. But it wasn't until punk kicked off, 77, 78, that I thought, I think I could do this. I could do this. So I went to a music shop in Tin Pan Alley in London, because I was up in London working as a commercial artist by then. Went to the local record store with my friend Rob, and he bought a snare drum and I bought a guitar. And when we went back home and we just did our version of Bohemian Rhapsody, which was just D, C, G, nothing like it. But it was just, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And we started somewhere, and that developed. And then by the time things had developed even further, helped actually by Les Graham and I's Girlfriends, which was the band. There was three of us in the band. That's sort of like where it developed from school bands and local bands into, we're getting to 18. It's getting seriously. Girlfriends sort of like chuck us all in the same week. Like, right, okay, we've got all this time now. Let's focus on the band. Let's get a flat together. Let's live and breathe the band. And then suddenly all the band names that we had were crap. And then you suddenly get serious about it. And so get a good name, start going to Ken Market, looking much better, not like we were last year. We weren't doing, that wasn't very successful with the ladies,
Yeah.
we're not going to get anywhere with that, looking like that, and then it was starting to actually happen. And I was very impatient. I wanted for it to actually happen. So I just walked into the NME and thought, right, got to get an interview, because if we can't get an agent, or we can't get gigs, we can't get anything going, I'll just have to get an interview then. So walked in and got an interview, and Adrian Thrills came round, and so we were a band with a New Musical Express half-page interview.
Oh wow!
And out of nowhere, absolutely nowhere land, suddenly there's this band called Haircut 100 with a crazy look, just where from Beckenham. That was it.
So where did that name come from, Haircut 100? How did you guys choose on that specific name?
Well, I was really into pop art, and just writing words down and for type so that I could put them around pictures and stuff. So I used to see words as just, words on posters, or word type around pictures, whatever the picture was. So I just liked putting words together. I think that's why I became a songwriter, because I couldn't work out other people's songs. So I was good at making stuff up. So Haircut 100 was just something I made up. Like, what about Haircut 100? And it's just like, we'd had many names up until then, but just Haircut 100 was like, got this reaction from people of, what? Why? What? Why? Okay, that's good. And it just so it stuck.
Okay.
It's like, that's actually a really good name. Yeah. Quick Cereal we were for a while. And, it just doesn't have the same thing. It's quite interesting, but it's not Haircut 100. And it's funny because it really coincided with the time as well. There was lots of bands that seemed to be using numbers like Heaven 17, and Level 42.
Okay, yeah.
And we were big Level 42 fans as well, and UK players and fans of the funk scene that was happening, that had been happening in London for a while. The whole Brit funk thing was always underneath there. But, as these cultural waves were repeating themselves and coming over the horizon, where mod had come back round again, and because punk had developed into new wave, and there's another wave, and there's another wave, and there was this kind of wave of music, funk revival, helped by chart number 1, really, Spandau Ballet, and it just had caused something to happen where they'd worked with great British funk players.
Yeah,
they brought in, and it was just kind of like, oh, okay, there's something happening here that's not, there was Funkopolitan, ABC, Pig Bag, the Higsons, and us. And so, okay, this is, and Blue Rondo a la Turk, who were friends. We all sort of knew each other in a way. ABC were more Sheffield, same as Heaven 17. That was coming from an industrial place. But from London, it was coming from a more dance-orientated place, the beat route and sort of clubs. So this Brit funk wave was it wasn't as big as New Romantic or anywhere near as big as punk or even the mod revival or something, but it was definitely a wave of the time, and we were in it. And so I was thrilled that we're in this wave, surfing it. It's like, okay, we're in it. Okay, we're going along with it. And so that's what just helped with there's a band in the NME on that wave. Well, we're here.
I was listening to the earlier tracks on the weekend in preparation for today, and I was listening, and there's African, Caribbean, big band, jazz, funk, new wave, all of those different elements together. Was it intentional when making the music, or was it experimental and it just sort of happened?
Well, it's that thing of you build it and they will come, all our influences within the members. That's the luxury and the lovely magical side of having a band. It's the enchantment of a band, isn't it? You've not just got one influence, you've not got two or three. You've got all the influences coming in that the individual members have grown up with. So you put all that together and you're bound to get something different and unique. Yeah. It's not going to be the same as any other band. But I suppose you have your musical influences, but can you actually play that? Like, I'd grown up with Oscar Peterson, but I couldn't play the piano like Oscar Peterson, but I had the influence, I had the information in there. And as we grew as a band, like Les, the bass, he was into Shalimar, his influences of Shalimar. I liked Shalimar, but I'd only just heard them as kind of the pop music of the time. And I remember thinking, wow, the production on that. I mean, you hear it today, it's fresh as a daisy. As funk is, it's just, Corey Wong is doing brilliantly now, and it just sounds completely contemporary, but it's funk, and it's a kind of eternal thing, funk, it seems. It could just go on and on. It sounds totally clear, and it's just, a brilliant form of music. The different influences, and then it was just the three of us. And so then when Mark joined, who was Latin American Brazilian influence, he could actually play that music, and he lived and breathed that music. I mean, Kraftwerk and other things as well, but mainly that was his big influence. So, and he could do it. So when he came in, he brought all that experience into the band. So that's why Favorite Shirts is so filled with actual, genuine, authentic, Latin American, Brazilian influence.
Yeah.
Because he could play guiros and and he was a brilliant percussionist. So it's like, and we were really pleased and proud to have him in the band, because it was kind of like, wow, we're really getting good, aren't we? And then when Blair joined, who was American, it was like, oh wow, well, we are actually a genuine funk band, and we can compete on the world stage here with Blair. Oh my God. People were kind of like, I remember the guy from Orange Juice, when we played up in the Ultratech, I think it was Alan Horn who ran Postcard Records, came up and said, how do you sound like that? And I said, well, it's Blair Cunningham. It's like, he's solid as a rock. I mean, if you ever hear him, watch. I said, wait till you check the live show out. And he came up afterwards and went, I see it, and it's funny because Orange Juice got a drummer, a similar drummer. Quite close after that.
And then you moved from Haircut 100 to a solo career, which is spanning all the decades. Tell us about the solo career.
It started off from quite a sad place, because, Haircut 100 had moved on to another record label and continued and stuff. So it wasn't like something I'd worked towards and was kind of ready for, because that would have probably been lots later. We'd probably all done solo albums, and bands don't stop after one album, they continue. The Beatles made it to 10, and like Duran is still here, and Depeche Mode, and how many albums are they on? I mean, it's brilliant. U2 and lots of stuff. But so this was kind of like it wasn't planned. Just go with it. So, and also it was how I wanted Haircut to sound. I wanted Haircut 100 to work with Jeff Emerick, who I ended up working with, to sound like this, because I really got into the Beatles that I'd never got into before. I was just listening to them on the coach, going to in haircut gigs. Everybody had their stuff that they listened to on the Walkman.
Yeah.
And I was listening. I discovered the Beatles. I was just like, this is the best thing I've ever heard. I mean, once you've heard Penny Lane, you can't unhear it. And it was such a strong influence. I just thought, to sound like that. And then, so there was a chance of working with the man who'd recorded Penny Lane. And he'd also done an album called Imperial Bedroom with Elvis Costello. And there was a song called Town Crier. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, this was it again. I'm like getting to sort of like 21, 22 and maturing and wanting to sound like that. That would be amazing. I've got this song and it's called Whistle Down the Wind, and it's really, really, it's developed over the years. It used to be called Look at Ruby, and it was okay. And it used to have a sax solo in the chorus, but it needs a chorus. So like, hello, hope you're feeling fine. Yeah, this could be like our first number one, but that wasn't to be. And it's just like, right, that could be it. But it didn't happen. But just that was what I wanted to do, to sound as wonderful as Town Crier.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know that song, but it's a brilliant song.
I'll have a listen, but I do know Elvis Costello, so I'm sure. Yeah. But you mentioned it happened when you weren't planning it. And there's this saying, life happens when you're making plans. So it's just about riding that wave and just accepting that journey, whatever life throws at you, and you just move forward.
Yeah, well, things don't go as gracefully as you'd like it to be.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's messy and it's not what you have in plan. Otherwise we'd all just kind of like be with this, what you think is going to happen.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not what happens, and like you said, and it's how you deal with it, isn't it? Because some people don't deal with things too well, and some people do, and some people are eternal optimists as well, and they can turn it around quickly, or so you can finish some people off really quickly. In the music world, it's definitely filled with that, because it's just creativity and sharing creativity, really. But with some people, it's a lifestyle, and it's their life, and if you lived and breathed rock and roll lifestyle, you probably wouldn't last 6 months physically. It's like watching UFC fighters now. You think some of them, the way they're fighting, they're not going to be here at the end of the week, let alone, 10 years or 15-year career of, being hit in the face 250 times in one match.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, and there are other, other UFC fighters that have only been hit about once or twice in their whole career. They're just so slippery, and like Khabib.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know about UFC, but it's just a gruesome sport.
Yeah.
You just look at it and go, wow, and some people are really, there's only a few that have earned millions and done really well and had great careers out of it. And same with music. It's just the way it's just the way it goes. So if it was just down to you, everybody, I'm sure, would have just said, well, I'll have 20 albums. They'll all be number one, and then I'll retire.
Yeah. that would be lovely.
Yeah.
You mentioned the creative process. What is your creative process in creating music and or a song? Is it always different, or is it always coming from the same place?
Thankfully, it's always different. I have to approach it that way. Otherwise, it would get samey. I would, because I can sit down and actually just like, I haven't got a guitar around here, but just sit down and play and sing a songwriter style, and you play a G and you go, thinking of you, thinking of all the things you do, you make me feel like another cup of tea. Just like, okay, right, and that's you sitting down, playing G, going to D, maybe C, all the things that you've done and you keep doing. And then there's other times where, say like this song I was working on called The Mudlarks, on the newer thing I'm doing. I was in my studio like this. It's a desk like this, but Sarah's American, so half the year we're over in America.
Okay.
And there I've got like just a little bit more than this. I've got a pair of speakers and other things, but I've got a laptop the same with Logic on. And I was trying to work out how to do it, because when you go 6 months here, 6 months there, and you don't do anything to do in the studio for 6 months, it's a bit like not using your phone. You go, where is everything? So I have to reacquaint myself. So I was reacquainting myself with the Logic, going, how do I record acoustic again? So I'm trying to record acoustic, and it was really, really low volume and sounding awful. And I thought, oh dear. I was just playing something, not thinking about it, not sitting down like I've just shown you and playing G and singer-songwriter, or even sort of trying to be anyone. That's the worst thing, when you go, I'm just here thinking of you. Like you think, ooh, who's that? I sound like someone there. And then the next minute you're writing a song like that person, or you're going, I'm just here sitting down you know, it's a bit Dylan-y sort of stroke Mick Jagger a little bit. And you think, oh, I quite like a bit early Waterboys there. Oh, I quite like that. So this was none of that. I was sitting down trying to do something, and I played it, and I was trying to record the something, right? So I got this sound up, and it said something like, I don't know, broken smell or something like that. So I pressed on that just to try and work it out, and it sounded glassy, and I thought, oh, that's quite good. It's quite glassy. So I was picking out things, and I thought, glassy, it sounds like that's kind of like sparkling things in the mud. I thought, oh, that's like mudlarks, you know, that's like beach shells washed up in the morning tide. The mudlarks see what there is to hide. Oh, I quite like that. Oh, and that's like sort of like Dickensian, like kids playing. Oh, that reminds me of Dad. And we used to go to that pub in, the Prospect of Whitby, wasn't it? Yeah, okay, like the mud. That's like the Sex Pistols, Filth and the Fury, the filth of mudlarking. And it's a bit like Brexit. Things are going backwards. And okay, how far back do you go? Do you go back to mudlarking? Okay, and whistles and glass and sparkly things and mudlarking and pipes. Yes, clay pipes. The clay pipes laid out beneath the scum. And then there you have this new song. And I thought, blacksmiths. Yes, blacksmiths. Okay. It sounded like people working. Ding, doo, doo, doo. So I got a frying pan from the kitchen and I went, doo, doo, doo. No, that kind of works. So I'll record doo, doo. Yeah, that works. But I wanted to sound like an anvil, but it's out of tune. What is the key of that? So I'm like trying to find the key next of the frying pan. And then, so I think it's a bit out of tune. So I get something else that's like the frying pan that sounds like more like an anvil. So I'm like hitting the spoon. And then it's like I've got something. And then I put that on a beat. So it sounds like blacksmiths working. And then I've got something that's not like anything I've written before at all. So it's, you know, it's and it was also probably because I'd gone, and we're back to the influences. Yeah. Because I'd gone to see the Threepenny Opera at the National Theatre. And I loved it. I loved the music because it was an accordion, and I think they had a guy playing a tuba, and they're all Jack Brel, the way they were dressed. And I just thought, oh, this is great. And I love the smell of the theatre and the way they used shadows. And the only reason I was there was because Sarah, my wife, loves things like that. You know, she would go and see modern dance, and I just kind of like, I'm designated driver in a way, you know, I kind of go taking her, but it's that thing of being forced into something where you go, I wouldn't necessarily go to that, but I'm here and wow, this couple dancing around this light bulb, they look amazing. I wouldn't have just done that. I would have just stayed at home drinking tea. But that's the wonder of, again, influences and then other people's influences, and it all gets put into songwriting. And I will songwrite for the rest of my life, whether it's released or not, or whether it's finished or not. It's just something I just like doing. I just like painting or anything. It's just something I have to do. And if I don't do it, I get it's blocked somehow, like conversation. You have to keep doing it for it to flow. Like anything. If you stop doing your job, you'd get grumpy. Yeah. So I have to do this, you know. Yeah. Even if it's not successful, it's what I have to do. And if you're a creative person, you can't do proper things. That's why you're creative. You have to do something that isn't. Other, you know, you can't get a proper job. Yeah,
totally understand all of that. And so the words of your songs, I'm gathering that they're from personal experiences and experiences like going to that modern dance and seeing those dances around the light bulb and being, I didn't think of that. And this is something new and different. So it's a combination of all of those packed together that create the words and the story of the song. Am I correct?
Yeah, exactly. I have to force myself to come from a different approach as well. Like, you know, like an aircraft landing, you know, you do that the same every time. This is the thing of, I have to approach the airport from a different, maybe it's just going with the wind. You have to, you know, you have to have a different approach. You know, you can't go in on the same every time. You have to know that there's a northwesterly or something, or, you know, it's the way you come in, but you get different results. Definitely with songwriting, if you just, otherwise I think you would probably write the same song over and over. It might get better, and then you might hit that one, or it might get slowly more just kind of samey. Who knows?
Yeah, totally. I totally get you. And that sameness is planning life and that going with the wind is flowing like the breeze and just letting it happen, like we spoke about earlier.
It's working with life.
Yeah.
It's working not against it. It's going with it. But, sometimes you do that force and going against it is creative process itself, and not being the same. So you do. I mean, I sometimes use hypnotherapy to kickstart my creative brain. Yeah. If I haven't been using it for a while, if you've been, I just see them as tools, really, just like anything, like meditation, which really, you can call it meditation, but it's just sitting down and closing your eyes. Yep. I mean, you don't have to close your eyes, do you? I mean, but it's sitting down and taking a breather, and I need to do that to be able to sit down, take a breather. Otherwise, things are frantic. You find yourself going to the cupboard and you've already grabbed hold of the rice, and put it into the pot before. So you'll end up going to get the rice and it's all over the floor. It's not, whereas if you meditate, you go and get the rice and you can observe yourself getting the rice. You take it out and then you close the cupboard properly and you put the rice into the water, the boiling water. You don't put the rice into an empty saucepan.
It's about being in the moment and present and not allowing your thoughts of planning or zoning out or worrying or stressing about other things take you away from the daily life of just being. Yeah.
And then you appreciate everything that you're doing because you are the observer, observing everything as you go, and not like when you're younger, which is just happening to you, It's like happening to you and you don't appreciate it. It's just happened. And it's just like everything's just kind of like that. And the older you get, you just want to slow it down and appreciate life more because gets more precious because you realize it's not here forever.
Totally.
Well, it is.
Totally.
I mean, I suppose.
Yeah.
As in, life is here forever because whether we're here or not, life will go on.
Exactly.
Until the end of life. And who knows when that is. It'll just change. I mean, even if somebody decided to blow it up tomorrow, it will evolve into something else.
Something else, yeah. So tell me about your experience of South Africa. Have you been here before? Have you performed here or been here? What's your perception and experience of South Africa?
It's limited because I haven't had any. This is the first interview.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
okay.
It begins here. This is the new beginning.
Oh, well, that's brilliant. So I'm going to pat myself on the shoulder for that. That we speak to you first. Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
It's taken 61 years. Well, nearly 61. I'm 61 in May.
So then that means that the next step will be coming to perform here and then meeting and being part of this country. But our podcast is listened throughout the world, not only in South Africa. You're currently still touring at the moment, correct?
Yeah, I'm kind of, it was strange after COVID because it seemed like only festival outdoor events were going ahead. So we didn't plan anything indoor, but being in the UK, we accepted all sort of like outdoor stuff. And then gradually it looks like indoor is coming back. So we're just taking things as they come. Yep. Like I'm doing a gig in a flower shop, a record store tomorrow, where it's like 50 people, I think, or 80 people, and it's going to be lovely, singing with some people who are obviously into flowers and records, which is same here, and shops, which when you get older, you just love going in and out of shops and cafes, and I spend all day in a cafe, just observing people and drinking tea or, and having a flapjack and then having another cup of tea and whiling away the time. The whole day's gone by and it's just floated by, but you've just really enjoyed being in a cafe. It's just this lovely, simple thing.
Being the observer, as you mentioned before.
Yeah. You watch the coronation chicken flying out. You think, I wonder what it's going to be used as a filling on that lady that's just come in. Yeah, I wonder if she'll go to the... Maybe she's vegan. Maybe she'll go for that dish. Maybe she'll go for the beetroot because beetroot's really good for the heart. She'll feel that pumping through her veins for the rest of the week if she has the beetroot.
Now, tell me, from when you started, it was vinyl, then cassettes, CDs. I'm a CD type of guy. I love my CDs, still buy them. Now it's the digital platforms. What's your perception of the way people now listen and consume music compared to 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 40 years ago when you started out?
Well, it's completely changed, isn't it? I mean, is it for the better or is it not? As a consumer, I love it because I'm getting to hear all the songs that I didn't hear and couldn't afford before. Like I'm playing all the 10cc albums that I could never buy because I couldn't buy everybody's music.
Mm-hmm.
But now we're actually, for a subscription, I actually get to hear everybody's music. So as a music fan, I love it. It's changed the way music is consumed so much that records aren't there, but CDs still are. So you can make, I still think album when I'm making music. So even though now it's still just songs, content to release, share, creativity instantly, which I love. I just love that. I mean, when MySpace first came out, I thought, hallelujah, this is amazing. I can make something here at home and share it today, which is what I used to do. I didn't realize people were just kind of like taking it. But as an artist, I didn't mind because for years of being on a record company where it took years through the creative process of putting an album together, so involved with everyone and everything. So this was just really quick. It was like, okay, I can do a doodle on my piano or something, and then I don't even have to sort of mix it or anything. It's, wow, this is it. I can share this with people. So as an artist, I was 100% satisfied, but there wasn't any payment going on. So, but that was similar to what I've been used to because you used to get an advance and that used to have to last you for ages. So you never really saw any money anyway. And as I wasn't money driven, it worked for me.
Okay.
But there comes a time when you have to work it out. You have to grow up and know that you do actually have to learn about this stuff as well, because it's all part of the creative process too. It's very creative, like mathematics can be creative, money can be creative too. It's really good, and to embrace that, it can be just as creative. It's nice to know how much the frame costs on your painting, and to know because I used to have that kind of mentality of Alfred Wallace, the rag and bone man in Cornwall, who just used to paint it was called naive art, but only because he wasn't trained. But he obviously had artistic flair, and the way he would write on hardboard and straight onto there and like pencil it, scratch it in, and then just paint. So all the boats were flat and in the harbour, and it's like, there's the harbour, there's the boats, one-dimensional, great, but artistically, it's like, wow, that's not just somebody just kind of, lots of people can paint a boat in a harbour scene, but they have no artistic merit. Why is there merit for this? And why are they now in the Tate? Because they're just on bits of driftwood but it's just great. I love what is for that. He's got this painting called The Blue Ship, and I have it on my wall as inspiration because I love that idea of not waiting to be Mozart before you start composing.
The thing is for me is that I love the aesthetic of holding the CD. I love holding the booklet, seeing the words. For me, this access to everything is a bit of a facade, because oftentimes I'll go into a playlist on one of the platforms that I created, and some of the songs are no longer there. Whereas if I've got the CD, the songs are always mine. There'll never be a chance of them being deleted or taken away.
Yeah. And that is it. But that's what the internet is, isn't it? It's that thing of ownership. Who actually owns these creative works?
Yeah.
And when that means owning, it's also not just kind of like, it's tangible. It's physically. When you own a copy, you own it for life, like a book. And then you have your bookshelves, and then you leave your books to people. You pass on your books, and it's about worth, and then about self-worth and the worth of something. And and now, there's a shop in town near me called Jonkers, I think it's called, and it sells books and first editions for hundreds of thousands of pounds because it's worth something. It's worth that. Otherwise, it's that thing of all vintage cars would just be deleted as worthless things or anything from the past, but that's not so. So you're right, it has kind of like undermined music in a certain way. So it's good for listening, good for discovery, but also personally it can can take away the magic. Yeah.
And also the sound quality is not as good as when you put on a vinyl or CD or cassette. The quality in the digital world, as far as I understand, is a little bit muted. So you don't get that full encompassing musical experience when listening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also the changes in the music world about how people make music. Things don't sound like Bohemian Rhapsody because it's not people in a studio making music together physically and, you know, going from one studio to another, and all the happy accidents that happen there, and all the influences of the sound engineer and the producer and even the assistant who mics it up a certain way and might mic it up 2 inches differently to how they did beforehand. And it's just got a slightly vibier sound that you could never recreate again. And I know that because, you know, if you try and recreate old stuff, it's almost impossible to do that the same way. It won't sound the same. When everybody re-recorded all their music for Apple, people know. I mean, there's something about the time. It's you've taken a snapshot and a photo of that time. Yes, you can have a vintage filter, but it's not an actual vintage photo.
And also the instruments, you know, back in the 70s and 80s, everyone was actually playing the instruments. They weren't all computerized. I remember I was with a younger friend of mine and we were listening to a classic, let's change it to a classic Donna Summer song. And he said, why does it sound so different? I said, it's not different. They're playing actual instruments. That's the difference compared to being computerized.
Well, that's the magic of art right there, you know, and they would have spent a long time capturing that magic in that way. You know, it's the vibe of it. Like, you know, why is take 4 got something that take 1 didn't have, or vice versa? There's something about it. And that would have been a group of people all deciding that together. You know, when we were recording Love Plus One, there was something about the take that we used. It was the right tempo because we weren't playing to a click in those days. It was about getting the right tempo, and it was like, there's something, it grooves, that one. You know, and even if you, which is what a lot of people still did. I mean, in the Beatles they did it as well. They took take 1 and take 4, and it was, you know, the intro, the first verse and the chorus from take 1, and then they chop it into another one, and there was loads of that. I mean, she said by the Beatles was loads of creative chopping up to make it sound like it was kind of out of step with itself, but that was really creative, the way she said, I know what it's like to da da da. It was like, oh, that's kind of wrong-footed you almost, like what? And that was just in the editing. So yes, you can do that now completely. I mean, you can do it all on a laptop. You can make stuff here, but it's still on a grid. And that's why everything now has that. And digital does sound good. It sounds amazing. I mean, there's some amazing stuff. I mean, the new Lizzo funk stuff is just brilliant. And it does sound progression from funk. You know, you've got funkadelic, and then you know, George Clinton, you've got all that stuff, and moving all the way through, and Chic and Shalimar, and, you know, High Tension and Spandau Ballet, and, you know, Hecko 100, you got all this stuff that goes on. But then you've got, you know, Lizzo taking all those elements and today's production, which just sounds so sophisticated in certain ways. But it's still using the elements of the past, and it sounds really good. But there's something about the real playing that just has that magic. I mean, you cannot do Bohemian Rhapsody on a laptop.
No.
It cannot be conceived. I mean, it just won't happen. It wouldn't have happened. The whole process would have not made that happen.
So besides Lizzo, who of the current artists are you currently listening and are on your playlist?
Well, I like such a vast array of new and old stuff. I mean, I love NPR music for just hearing new stuff, and I don't even know who they are, and I don't remember them because it's not important in a way who they are so much as the music that they're making. I really enjoy all the live stuff that they're doing. I really like listening to Corey Wong on Instagram, and there's loads of guys. There's a guy that Fernando, the bass player, that just like plays bass along with other people's records. I like his afro. So it's a mixture of different things. I've never been just kind of like, oh, I just like that and that's that. I like Jessie Buckley because she's just, you know, who was in Wild Rose and just a brilliant actress. but her voice also is just heavenly. I mean, what a gifted actress and singer. You don't normally get that together. Well, you did in the good old days, but it doesn't really happen. But she has that. And she was at the Met Gala, you know, dressed brilliantly. I think she shone out because she got it. She got what it was. What was it? Was it something glamour this year? Sophisticated glamour or something. I'll have to find out what that was.
Yeah.
But the theme was definitely something about glamour. But she got it right, and she had a great. She looked like a Mexican Spanish guitar player with a moustache.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Great look.
Yeah.
You know, and I think she's really good, and she's brilliant in Wild Rose, and she does a brilliant Glaswegian accent. But she's done this album with, I think she might be Glaswegian actually, because she does just brilliant accents anyway, which shows a brilliant actress. But she's done this album with Bernard Butler, you know, which is great. You know, he's a great artist as well, and they come together and have made wonderful music. Yeah. You know, so I listen to her, and I'm like, that's something to aspire to, because I can't sing like that. So to hear somebody singing like that, it's just amazing. And you think, wow, you know, and to be able to write, like, you know, you listen to Freddie Mercury and you think, you know, to write something like Bohemian Rhapsody, you know, you'd have to go all over the place like that. It's like operatic. You'd have to be able to dive places. Yeah. You know, you can't just be, some people just can't be Paul McCartney and go, blackbird singing in the dead of night, take these frozen wings and learn to fly. You know, so all those kind of, not a lot of people can be that blackbird flying around, because they might be a different kind of bird completely. They might be just a blue tit and just a, you know, tiny voice and flitting all over the place and just everywhere. And other people might just be a chicken or a goose. Yeah. You know, or I mean, you know, if you're a chicken or if you're a pheasant, you're never really going to be taking off. But, you know, you're really good at kind of like being on the ground, you know, and you get going in. You can go in and out the bushes pretty well.
But it's also important to not, you know, honor what you have and your difference, and not compare yourself to the others, because then it will become this mental thing of like, oh, I'm not good enough.
Yeah, well, you know, you can come a cropper with that as a creative person, because, you know, hell is comparison with others, isn't it? You know, that's what it is. I mean, you're not going anywhere if you get that. And then we're back to Alfred Wallace. I mean, you know, he wouldn't have even started painting. It's just that thing of you do something and you just compare it instantly to someone else, and you go, oh, I'm not going to play cello then. You know, that's that. Yeah. But you've only played cello for 2 minutes. So yeah, I mean, even Jacqueline Dupre to start, you know, she had to go to cello lessons at some point, or just pick one up.
Like you said earlier, it's one step forward, just taking that first step and just starting and just getting better and better and better.
I mean, if I thought to myself, oh no, I'm way too old to become successful in South Africa, therefore I'm never going to do anything, and that's that, then we wouldn't be doing this at all, because it would be pointless. And then you'd have a closed door to everywhere. You know, that's pointless. I'm never going to Wimbledon. I never do this. I'm not going to do anything. And then you end up, it's not achieving anything. It's just the fact that you're not open to anything. And you may just end up at home, you know, quite depressed about everything. Maybe, you know, and someday it's going to break through the clouds, and that depression, you'll have to kind of like go, well, I might join Twitter. And because I want to be president of the United States.
That's so funny.
I mean, that was just an old geezer at home who was really depressed one day, wasn't it? Yeah.
As a final question to you to finish off today, for our listeners in South Africa and around the world, what is your final comment, message to the listening audience?
Well, it's interesting, actually, because I wrote something down. You know, we're talking about influences, and I don't think sometimes influences can be long-standing or hang around for ages and just be there, and then, you know, 10 or 20 years later, you go to do something and you're influenced by it. I think sometimes you can be influenced by something really quickly. And I just picked up a book. I like having this book laying around sometimes, because it's a book that you can kind of like just open up, and just there's always something that reflecting what's going on at the moment. You go, oh, I needed to read that. And I've seen loads of different translations of it, and they're all completely different. Like, they're not the same at all. It's a fascinating book.
Well, for the people who are listening, what's it called? Lao Tzu.
Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu.
Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. Okay.
Yeah. And, I obviously was influenced by something. You can read something like the Tao and bits from it and go, oh, this is interesting. Like, the greatest straightness looks like crookedness. The greatest skill appears clumsy. The greatest eloquence sounds like stammering. Restlessness overcomes cold, but calm overcomes heat. The peaceful and serene is the norm of the world. And you're just kind of like reading this stuff. And obviously I got inspired by some of this. And I wrote in the back, it said, if your mind is an sky and thoughts the clouds, you will need to clear your mind regularly. And so that's the thing of just being influenced by wisdom immediately at the time, and then writing something which is kind of like your version of it that you've just read. And so that's it. It's about everybody interpreting something differently, like your way of putting it. And I like that from everyone. It's like it, when people try and interpret it, they can't talk about it because it can't be named. And, there's words for it, and they all get used. Different people use them all the time. And it's so, when I say it, what is it? Because it is unexplainable, because it's how, while we're all here, and I call it life. But, lots of people have got different words for it, but it is kind of, how do people explain it? And you've got different people explaining it. Some are really good, like good doctors, and some aren't. But then when one resonates with you, like somebody's explaining it, because somebody might not go, I don't get that, but that thing that got, oh yeah, if your mind is an English sky, okay, that's a lot simpler. Okay. And the thoughts, the clouds, yeah, I've got a cloudy mind and a cloudy sky a lot of the time, and it's quite dismal and grey here. You will need to clear your mind regularly. Yeah, like I go for a poo, and like every morning, and I feel really good about that. I need to do that. If I didn't poo, it'd be awful.
Yeah.
I need to clear my mind. I need to have because I feel really clear on a sunny day. I don't know. It's like I need a blue sky. I need a blue sky and I need a clear sky. But what if you didn't need a clear sky or a blue sky, and you felt clear-minded without the weather affecting you? Mm-hmm. And that's what draws you closer to it. And you go, it is a fantastic day. Maybe.
Well, that's so beautifully put from the brilliant Mr. Nick Heyward. Thank you for your time today. It's been an honor chatting with you. And thank you to our listening audience for listening in. This is Barret Edelstein signing out.
Cheers.